A-N-A-D-C-H-E-N. Okay, so I thought it was E-N or U.
Mention with the two dots over the,
No.
yeah, German.
Yeah, das war Mädchen, ja, that's not.
Yeah, that's
German?
my,
Yeah.
my legal assistant.
When I looked it up, I was directed to Scottish, but I had the wrong spelling. I
Okay.
had U instead of E.
Ah,
Now it makes more sense.
Yeah.
Because they're so close. They
but
sound very
so
similar,
far.
but so far.
Yeah, and to make matters worse, in German, young boys, Junge, they're masculine, young girls, Mädchen, that's neuter. So it's der Junge, das Mädchen, it makes no sense except for the Germans, and it's, you just have to know it and do it right.
Well, next time you told her,
Yeah.
apologize for turning into a Scottish male. For the last couple of months.
That's a rare problem.
Not so much anymore.
Yes, you're right.
More commonly.
Ready?
Yes. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the City of Kingston Historic Landmarks Preservation Commission meeting. Today is December 5th, 2024. It is 6:30 p.m. My name is Suzanne Cahill. I am the Planning Director for the City of Kingston. Just a few short announcements before we start our meeting. If you do have your cell phone, I just ask that you please put it on silent so that it doesn't interfere with the meeting. If you do need to have any conversations outside of the ones being had with the commission itself, we do ask that you take them out of the room. The chamber is currently being used, but there is a conference room on the other side of the chamber. Just be respectful as you go through the chambers. Speaking of going through the chamber, the bathrooms are on the opposite side of the chamber. As you go out the doors on the other side, men's to the left, women's to the right. If there is an emergency, we do ask that you use the stairs and not the elevator. If you need assistance, please ask and we'll help you down the stairs. Also, I just want to let everyone know that we are live streaming the meeting and it is being recorded. So just please be respectful of that as well. And I give a minute, George is joining us. And with that, I'm just going to turn the meeting over to Chairman Grumblatt. It is 6:32 to start the meeting.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Grunwald. I chair Historic Landmark Preservation Commission here in Kingston. I'm going to ask the members of the board to introduce themselves. We'll go around the table. Can we start with you, Andrea?
I'm Andrea Putes. I'm the architect of the commission.
Manny Morano, Commissioner.
Robert Tonner, Commissioner.
Eric Winchell, Commissioner. Kevin McAvoy, Commissioner.
I'm Ethan Dickerman. I'm Historic Preservation Administrator.
And Matt is here. And Matt Jankowski is.
Office of Corporation Counsel.
All right. First order of business, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from last month's meeting? Are there any changes, additions, corrections that anyone would like to propose? All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minute, to adopt the minutes as presented.
So moved, Robert.
Thank you, Robert. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Eric. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Andrea?
Aye.
Nettie?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
I also vote yes. All right, first up, 917 and 21 North Front Street and Fair Street Extension. I'm guessing that's you, Mike?
That's got a nine.
All right, if you would please come to the end of the table.
I need to recuse myself from this one, being as my office is working on this one.
All right.
Bye.
Good evening.
Evening.
The board, you may recall we were here during the pendency of the lengthy review of the Kingstonian. We were approved by the board at that time. The approval was for a 1-year period, which we knew at the time, but lost track of along the line there. And so we are back tonight for a reapproval and a ratification of the plans. There's no changes to the plans at all, same architectural, same things that the board reviewed before. As the board knows, we've been mired in a series of lawsuits for a number of years. All those lawsuits have now been resolved, and I think we're on a good pathway here. I don't know current status of when things will happen, but I gave an addendum that's part of the application that has a history of those lawsuits, and we brought Scott here too, if there's any questions at all about what we're doing, but it's essentially the same plan.
Does the new code change any of what you were planning to do?
No, it's from my reading of it, but Sue, you may not let
there's
you,
not.
yeah, it's not my reading of it, there's no new requirements.
Okay,
And the planning board has issued or extended their approval. That approval did not expire. They applied and the planning board did do an extension on that site plan and special permit. So the seeker for that is carried forward as well.
right, theirs are usually for 2 years, if I'm remembering.
Right, under the new code, there is a provision to extend it beyond with extenuating circumstances. And obviously the board also recognized all of the lawsuits that have been going on. The litigation on this project has been extensive, not only with the city of Kingston, but other agencies outside of the city as well. So,
Yeah, and this application that's before you is type 2 under seeker. The seeker was completed before. It's really
Right,
there's no physical changes to the environment anticipated.
okay. So as opposed, I think everyone except you, Eric, was here when this was coming through. Do you have any specific questions?
I don't, I read the minutes from the March meeting. I agree with it.
Okay. So, if no one else has questions, the first thing we have to do is decide whether we agree that this is now a type 2 rather than type 1 action under seeker. First time we did it, it was type 1. Type 1s are bigger, have a larger impact. Since this is a reapproval rather than a new approval, and there are no additional changes, we sort of, I'll let Mike speak to this in more detail, but overall, we are, since the physical nature is not shifting, there's no additional environmental issues for us to address at this point. We hit them, or everyone here but Eric hit them when they were before us previously. Do you have any questions about that logic? Do you want a quick overview? I'll let Mike give it to you if you'd like. Or is there
The planning board is a type 2, we're type 1, is that?
No.
no,
Type 1 is bigger, larger, requires a different level of environmental review. More is happening. First time this went through, type 1 was part of the picture for us.
For us.
Yeah,
for everybody,
Everybody.
everybody.
we're what's called an involved agency. The planning board is the lead agency here. So they've already taken the major step. We are of extending their approval that went entirely through type 1. Our early approval went through type 1, but we have to do this over again because our approval lapsed, whereas their approval didn't. So it's slightly different from a procedural standpoint, but if you want to chime in here, Mike, with
Yeah,
your
the
reasoning.
seeker regulations provide for type 2 actions which are actually precluded from environmental review. There is no environmental review, and there's one in particular that speaks to this specific instance. It's 617.5C 25, and it says official acts of a ministerial nature involving no exercise of discretion, including building permits and historic preservation permits, where issuance is predicated solely on the applicant's compliance or non-compliance with the relevant local building or preservation codes. So we've cited that because nothing's changing from the discretionary review that this board conducted previously. This board was, had full discretion to make changes, have Scott, if you recall, Scott had a lot of stuff that he submitted. If the board doesn't feel that there's a need for changes now, that would be appropriate. So.
Okay, so I will move that we declare this a type 2 action under seeker. Is there any further discussion? Would anyone like to ask a question of our council specifically on this? Not something we get to do often. All right, hearing none, I'll need a second.
Second, Nettie Rowe.
Thank you, Nettie. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Nettie?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
I also vote yes and note Andrea's recusal. All right, on to the deeper matter at hand. Some of you will recall a lot of what I'm about to read. It'll be new for you, but we are reiterating a long list of findings of fact that we found earlier, and they'll go into the record. All right. I move that the Historic Landmark Preservation Commission find that in accordance with the review procedures set forth in section 405.26.L10 of the City of Kingston's form-based zoning code, that we issue a certificate of appropriateness for the development known as the Kingstonian. This addresses an addendum of material submitted on November 20, 2024 by the applicant, as well as the original submissions by consultants and interested members of the public. HLPC further notes that the evidentiary record included material offered for consideration in the closure of Fair Street extension, questions of massing, scale, visual elements, fire and public health and safety issues, and uses at the project site. The aforementioned material has been thoroughly reviewed for compatibility with the historic character of the Kingston Stockade local, state, and national historic district. The HLPC commissioners find as fact that the Kingstonian, located at 9 through 17 and 21 North Front Street and Fair Street Extension in the Stockade Historic District by the applicant and owner, Kingstonian Development LLC, if done according to the plans reviewed prior to and at this meeting, is compatible with the historic character of the Kingston Stockade Historic District for the following reasons. The proposed work is to take place at parcels formerly occupied by a city of Kingston on-grade parking lot, an abandoned portion of public roadway, including also 2 structures, a warehouse building and an abandoned restaurant, along with associated site improvements. Based on the resources HLPC customarily consults, the HLPC understands that the existing warehouse site structure does not appear on the 1858 map of Ulster County by J.H. French, is depicted as a smaller structure on the 1870 Beers map of Rondout, Kingston, and Wilbur, and is shown on the 1914 Codwise maps. A documentation on the New York State Cultural Resource Inventory System was studied, and it is recognized under 2 entries that the structure was built in either the 1870s or 1880s as a 3-story frame hotel. That structure was bricked over frame siding, its supports removed, and adding a 1-story brick section to the front, creating an L shape circa 1946. Though not an exhaustive list of the reference materials, HLPC can reasonably estimate the construction and historical transition of the building. The proposed work will involve demolition of existing structures, construction of a 120 vehicle parking garage, approximately 9,000 square feet of retail restaurant space, a 32-room boutique hotel, 143 mixed residential units, including 14 affordable units, an open pedestrian plaza with public-oriented amenities, and Americans with Disabilities Act compliant walking bridge to connect with the adjoining Kingston Plaza. This work will cause a material change to the external appearance of the property. That the HLPC recognizes that the project's substance has not changed since the HLPC issued a preservation notice of action for the Kingstonian project and owners on March 3rd, 2022, which is appended hereto and made part hereof in this certificate of appropriateness. The HLPC has examined the project in accordance with the 5 criteria listed under Section 405.26.L.10B of our form-based code as follows. 1, the effect of the proposed work in changing, destroying, or affecting the exterior features of the landmark or district upon which such work is to be done. HLPC continues its finding that the demonstrable change within the Stockade district associated with the project will not be detrimental to the district as a whole. The HLPC's review of evidence regarding comparison scales, massing, materials, architectural features, provision for parking, and contemplated uses support HLPC's conclusion that the development will enhance the district. HLPC agrees with the statement found in brief 14, which states that, quote, new construction should be differentiated from the historic buildings, close quote. Though this brief specifically applies to additions onto existing historic buildings, the Kingstonian buildings are in essence architecturally consistent additions to the Stockade district as a whole. 2, the relationship between the results of such work and the exterior architectural features of other neighboring improvements. The HLPC continues its determination that the project adequately takes into consideration the immediate surrounding buildings. In addition to the various points of consideration under the first criterion noted above, HLPC further confirms that elements such as recessed doorways for entrances off of North Front Street are appropriately incorporated in line with the existing streetscape, along with other architectural vernacular to complement the surrounding district. 3, the factors of aesthetic, historical, and architectural values and significance, architectural style, design arrangement, texture, material, and color. The HLPC continues its findings based on a review of the documents and sample materials submitted by the applicant that the project satisfies these key style and design factors. Further, the HLPC credits the explanation of evaluation under this criterion as authored by Scott Dutton, noting that in reference to the inspection report dated August 28, 2019 by Grenier and Larios PC, with a determination that the current structure would not be, quote, economically or practically accomplished on this property unless the current warehouse structure is removed. The HLPC has confirmed that no significant historic features remain on the current structure and that its siding, cornice details, covered walkway, shutters, and windows were removed in the 1950s or thereabout. 4, the special character and aesthetic interests that any structure involved adds to the area. The HLPC continues its conclusion that the new construction to the west side of Fair Street Extension will be unique, respecting the character of the historic district and properties by incorporating extant features as discussed above. East side construction will not only revitalize a historic property, but return the character of a former amenity which has otherwise been lost. The HLPC finds persuasive the earlier review of the project's design by the New York State Office of Historic Preservation, of Parks and Recreation and Historic Preservation. 5, the difficulty or impossibility of reproducing any feature or structure involved because of its design, texture, material, position, or detail. HLPC recognizes that the bold text above represents language in the current form-based code, which was modified since the original determination of the HLPC was rendered. The HLPC has reviewed the application under its new language and affirms the original findings that based on our review of historic data, the strict replication and reproduction of historic features and structures would be counter to the intent of understanding of the historical significance and progression of history, which the city seeks to promote. The HLPC thus includes, after reviewing the entirety of the administrative record, that the following statements is made in communication Scott Dutton dated January 30, 2022 remain accurate. Quote, the proposed construction on the west side of the Fair Street extension will be unique and does not need to reproduce any kind of original structure. Elements of the vernacular architecture in the Stockade District will be utilized in the development of the exterior. And, quote, the proposed construction on the east side of the Fair Street extension will honor but not duplicate the details of the historic hotel building, especially because the existing building will be wholly reconstructed and no extant features from the original building remain. The National Park Service Preservation Brief 14 recommends that new construction should be, quote, differentiated from the historic buildings, close quote. The exterior of the building will be constructed in such a way that materials, proportions, and general yet simplified details will be implemented, but a direct copy of the original building will not be created. Therefore, the proposed construction will reflect a progression of the architectural style of the Stockade Historic District, which is consistent with Preservation Brief 14's recommendations. Close quote on Scott Dutton's letter. 7. The HLPC finds that the project, as defined, will not degrade the desirable character of the Stockade District, but will maintain harmony with respect to the district insofar as the character, materials, color, architectural details are concerned, and will prevent degradation of property. It's further identified that the proposal will serve to safeguard and enhance public health, promote safety, and preserve the character of the historic district by providing a unique public benefit, adding needed housing and additional commercial activity. The HLPC supplements its above listed findings with following considerations and requirements. It's the HLPC's understanding that the record made herein by the applicant fully complies with the procedural and substantive requirements set forth within the Kingston of City Form-Based Zoning Code, which govern the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness. Pursuant to section 405.26.L10 of the City of Kingston's Form-Based Zoning Code, the certificate of appropriateness shall be valid for 1 year. Any material changes or additions to plans or work specifically described and outlined in the submitted application will be subject to further review by our commission prior to that work being performed. This commission's approval does not obviate the need for a building permit from the City of Kingston's Building Safety Division or any other required approvals from relevant coordinating agencies. All demolition at the project site shall be completed in accordance with the City of Kingston's code and pursuant to all statutory requirements. Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that on this 5th day of December 2024, our commission grant a certificate of appropriateness to the above referenced applicant for the work as described herein, and in its application to our commission, such notice to be subject to the conditions contained in the foregoing motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Robert. Next week, Hamlet. All right. Are there any questions or further discussion? This was a lot. I'm hoping everyone followed where we were going with this. If there's any further questions for me, for council, for our applicant, It's been 2 years. If you want something clarified, now's the best time to ask. All right, hearing no further discussion, I will call the roll. Nettie,
Aye.
Robert,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Kevin.
Aye.
I also vote yes. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Everybody have a great holiday too.
Thank you, and a wonderful new year. All right, next up.
A lot of stuff.
You're a skier? I didn't know. 85 Moon Street. And this is our patch in to Mr. George is
Yep.
here on Zoom. Will we be seeing him or are you the only one
No,
who
you
can see
should
him?
be seeing, Dan, you just need to unmute yourself.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, welcome.
Thank you. Well, thank you for accommodating my Zoom.
Glad that we have the technical expertise to pull that off. So you were here last month. We got your letter from Rick
Right.
Alfandre. I'm not clear on the application of this particular sealant and whether that is applied only to bare brick or also would coat the entire structure. I also can't figure out if you seal it, can you then paint over it, or does that make that impossible? I'm not real clear how that all works. Do you have a good idea for us, Dan?
Yes. Well, we've done some pretty extensive research on this, and I think we've come up with the ideal product. This CoverTech Pen 80. And it allows breathability and yet completely seals water from coming from the outside to the inside.
So you would be
But
able to
it allows the water vapor to go from the interior wall to the outside. So it couldn't be more ideal than this.
Interesting. All right, so that's ideal from a structural standpoint, I'm guessing. But does it leave us with this rather unusual speckled effect on the front of the building indefinitely? How does that?
Yes,
worried
and that paint is on there so tightly that it cannot be removed without severe measures.
Dan, does the building need to be, does any further work, like any cleaning? I would presume that before you put this sealant product on, that you'll have to do like a cleaning or a rinse or something?
Exactly. A rinse or a brushing, a soft brushing.
Okay, and obviously, we're into very colder months, so I'm thinking that it might not be work that
It'll be the
can
latter
be
part
completed
of
right now.
it'll be the latter part of April, beginning of May.
Okay,
And I'm still unclear what the final appearance goal is here. Is it speckles? Is it?
Yeah, it's going to look just as it is now, but it will be sealed.
Okay.
so he's not gonna be working to take any more of the paint off, and it's been removed, and that's it.
That's it, yes.
Okay. I'm kind of hoping no one else replicates this, thinking that it's historically accurate.
I'll
And
show the historic layers.
well, that's one way to think of it. And As it is, so shall it remain. Okay, but sealed. Do you have any experience with this sort of product, Andrea?
Not this brand name specifically. There's a lot of different ones that are out there. And this is more of a repellent than it is a full-on sealant especially from what I read in Rick's letter. So it's not meant to stain the brick. It's going to keep the brick in its appearance. It's kind of the best case scenario for what's occurred here.
Okay, so it's protective of the brick, which is our number one priority. Yeah, and preserves the building stability, which is the most important key. We are sacrificing a sort of aesthetic, but given the trade-off we're faced with, I think is what I'm hearing is this the best anyone can do without risking additional damage.
It's either take all of the paint off it's not something the applicant is prepared to do or wants to do. So the only way to seal the remaining exposed brick, not seal it, but repel water off of it is to put this product on.
And what impact would repointing of the brick? Is it something that needs to be done before the seal?
Yes.
Okay. So, all right. And moving on with Rick's letter, he recommends repointing with a red mortar. What's your?
No, that was the original color of the mortar. Since then, it's been changed several times.
Yeah, that's my best guess. And through the centuries this has stood, it's been a municipal building, almost guaranteeing whatever was around is what got used.
You're probably pretty accurate on that statement.
Yeah, I've been at this a while. So you may have a wild agglomeration of different kinds of mortar. Do you need to do you have a feel for what work needs to happen there? And how do you want to sort of phase it or make sure that it all happens before the water repellent, let's use its name, Cover Tech, gets put on? Do you know how you want to work that with the repointing? Because that becomes a more complicated thing. If you put the Cover Tech on and then repoint, you're going to probably have to reapply it. Mm-hmm. Am I guessing correctly? Yes. Yeah, so rather than do it twice.
What are you recommending?
Well, I'm not sure how much repointing it needs. Rick seems to imply that it requires repointing. He would recommend that a red mortar be used, which sounds wonderful. But I also don't have a good feel from you how much repointing you think is needed.
There's one crack on the right side of the building from all the water damage. And if you're looking for appearance history, you should look at those earlier photos, which I have sent, because it's much worse looking than it is now. And there's one crack, and Rick has not really come up with a conclusion about whether we should try to fill that crack or leave it. There's discussion about.
He mentions doing additional analysis and study of the mortar. Is that something you're prepared to engage him to undertake before you do the actual?
No, I don't intend to do any mortar repair other than what's actually falling out.
Which would be like 5–10% of the facade. Can you give me a sense of how extensive
I don't have any indication yet.
Okay. Right, I remember the brick itself had cracked.
And you're gonna put this sealant on the entire perimeter of the building, all four sides, or are you just
No, no,
looking?
no. No, I mean, that would be futile because the paint is already blocked any possibility of the sealant working at all. It'd be like a waste of time and material.
It's meant to only go on exposed brick,
Mhm.
not on top of it.
Not on paint, correct. Yeah, I mean, there's some, like, you can see on the side, so I'm just curious. But some of the paint has naturally peeled.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah. So would you be sealing the areas? We're looking at the sidewall here. Do you see what we see on your end, Dan? Or is it just our smiling faces that you get to see?
Well,
No, you should see the shades.
I've done nothing to those bricks.
Right. So the question is how best to preserve them as well while we're at it. We're looking to be good with the whole building. You don't want to paint them. I'm going to defer to your expertise here, Andrea. Is it best to sort of leave as is, and if there is more exposure on the sides, address it later, or?
I think that would be more of my first.
Yes, I would think too, that if he hasn't done that abrasive treatment on the side, then he hasn't removed the natural exterior patina of the
Yeah.
brick. That has been, compromised on the front side, right?
Yeah, it would be more like, just keep an eye on it.
Okay. Yeah, we're
If it starts becoming a problem, there are ways to address it. The mortar joint's gonna fail before the brick does, hopefully, and you wanna address the mortar joint first. So, obviously, it's hard to keep an eye on it from street level, but, you'll hopefully see some evidence of it inside. So if it's not causing problems now, examine it and then move on.
Okay.
Also, there'd be accessibility problems on the sides.
For
There
sure.
is no property, there's like a 1 foot piece of land all the way around the building. So,
Right, so you'd have to get an easement from a neighbor to even put up a ladder.
yeah, and then you can only go back so far, and you'll see on the left hand image, there's a fence. And then on the other side is the same condition.
Yeah. Anyone else have any questions for the applicant? All right, then I will move that we declare this a type 2 action under seeker.
Motion?
I'll move.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on that matter? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Andrea?
Aye.
Nettie?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
I also vote yes. All right, and I promise this one's shorter. I move that our commission find as fact that the abrasive masonry cleaning of the street-facing facade and painting of woodwork at 85 Home Street in the Rondout West Strand Historic District is undertaken by the owner and identified within the application documentation. Reviewed at this meeting for compliance with the procedures stipulated in section 405-26 sub 10, I believe, no, sub L10 of the City of Kingston's form-based zoning code is compatible with the historic character of the district with certain mitigating actions with the following reasons and conditions. That unauthorized work took place at the three-story masonry Italianate firehouse on the western side of Home Street, midway between Spring and West Pierpont Streets, which according to the 1977 building structure inventory form dates to circa 1861 and served as the Rapid Firehouse, one of two firehouses in the Rondout neighborhood. That the owner's contractor in late October used a grinder to abrasively remove paint from the structure's Home Street facade and repainted the garage door, entryway door, windows, and cornice without a certificate of appropriateness. That the city's Building Safety Division issued a stop work order on October 28th, 2024, identifying the contractor used incorrect equipment and unacceptable methods to remove paint on the facade. That on the same day, the property owner was notified to submit an application to our commission for review and consideration, and subsequently admitted to using a grinder on the facade in an email on October 31st. That on November 7th, 2024, the commission expressed concern that damage may have occurred to the facade by the use of the grinder and required that the property owner secure a report from a qualified preservationist or historic preservation mason detailing the damage and providing an appropriate course of treatment to ensure the facade's long-term preservation. That the property owner submitted a condition assessment and treatment program prepared by Rick Alfondre on November 25th, 2024, stating that the owner must apply a vapor open water repellent, such as CoverTex Cover Seal PEN 50, to the facade to prevent water from infiltrating the damaged brick. Should the owner choose to apply a different product, that will be submitted for review and consideration prior to it being utilized. That the property owner must also repoint damaged mortar using historically appropriate mortar as defined in the National Park Service Technical Preservation Brief Number 2, repointing mortar joints in historic masonry buildings. That any changes or additions to the plans or work specifically described and outlined in the submitted application will be subject to further review by our commission prior to the work being carried out. The commission's approval does not obviate the need for a building permit from the City of Kingston's Building Safety Division or any other required approvals from relevant coordinating agencies. Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that on this 5th day of December 2024, that our commission grant a certificate of appropriateness to the above referenced applicant for the work as described herein and in its application to our commission, such notice to be subject to the conditions contained in the foregoing motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Eric. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Andrea?
Aye.
Nettie?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
I also vote yes. Thank you, Dan. Feel better.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate
please.
your accommodating me.
I'm glad
And
it
we'll get
worked.
this sorted out. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and greetings from North Creek. I was just up there.
Oh, well, I've actually had a friend from Brooklyn move up there recently.
We'll have to chat. I'll give her warnings. The rocks have moved at the garnet shed. She shouldn't swim just anywhere.
I think he goes over to Thurman and they
All right. Well, then she's at the Thurman Eddy. She'll be okay.
Yeah.
You take care.
Okay, cheers.
All right. Next up, 13 Wilbur Avenue. Hi. Hi, come on. Please have a seat.
My name's Maria.
Good evening. If you could give us a quick overview of your plan?
So we're basically, we were thinking we're gonna get into a big project like this. We were just trying to move like the main door that now goes into the kitchen. We wanna make it go into the living room and, close the current door that we have right now.
Okay, so the door we're looking at will be gone,
Yes,
and instead the main front door will be,
the black one.
Where his mouse is circling.
gotcha. Right that up those lines. Okay, so
Yes.
not a big move, but an important one from your point of view.
Yes.
Okay,
And then as well, we wanna like make it look more like an entrance than it, because currently we have two doors. The one that you see up there, and then one that it's covered like where his, up there.
okay. All right, all right, and so you're gonna use similar siding
Yes.
right down there. There was a question about, is it wood siding up above? Is it
It's
asbestos?
plástico, that's what? It's plastic.
Vinyl again?
Yes.
Okay. ¿Es más fácil para usted en español? Señor. Okay, esa es una posibilidad aquí. Okay, so su puerta está lo cambio más importante, pero siding. I don't know siding in Spanish.
¿Cómo le dicen en español?
Es la cubierta.
La cubierta de la casa.
La cubierta está lo mismo tipo que está allá inmediatamente. Es lo mismo, no hay un cambio en el color, no hay un cambio en material.
No, es el mismo color.
Okay.
Sí. Es el siding. Es de todo alrededor tiene de este.
Eso, sí.
De esto lo vamos a poner igual. Igual que en toda la casa.
La idea es esta cubierta es en toda esta parte de su casa.
Yeah, the whole house has it except that part right there. So that's what he wants to finish.
Okay, so it'll be consistent.
Yes.
All right. All right, if folks have questions for the applicant, I can do some translation, and I'm sure you can too. You're probably more used to this than I am. ¿Algunas preguntas para nuestra applicante? No questions. Okay. All right. Yep. Gracias, señor. All right. I will. You're right. I should entertain a motion that we declare this a type 2 action under secret. Not yet. It feels like I've been doing the entertaining.
I should have stood up.
Oh dear. All right, I will entertain such a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Nettie. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Oh, Robert wins the race. All right, any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Andrea.
Aye.
Nettie.
Aye.
Robert.
Aye.
Eric. Kevin.
Aye.
I also vote yes. And now to the underlying question. All right. I move that our commission find as fact that the proposed construction of a new front porch with entry door closing off the current access door and siding replacement project at 13 Wilbur Avenue in the Wilbur Local Historic District, if done according to the plans reviewed at this meeting and according to the procedures stipulated in section 405-26L of the City of Kingston's form-based zoning code, is compatible with the historic character of the district with the following reasons and conditions. The proposed work is to take place at the 2.5-story vernacular dwelling located in the northernmost parcel between Dunn Street and Wilbur Avenue, which according to AHRS's 2023 report dates to about 1930, and which occupies the site of an earlier structure identified on the Beers map of 1870 as owned by W. Boots. The applicant may fill the existing ground floor entrance along Wilbur Avenue with framing and covering it with the same khaki-colored vinyl siding that is present on the ground floor. The applicant may install the same khaki-colored vinyl siding across the rest of the house. If the Building Safety Division determines that the existing siding on the second floor is asbestos laden, then the property owner must comply with all regulations regarding removal and disposal of the material prior to installing the new siding. The existing pair of 6/6 windows along Wilbur Avenue will be removed to install a new black in-swing Therma-Tru entry door, 36 by 80 by 4 9/6. This does not look right, but 4 and a fraction fiberglass door with a 4-panel light. The applicant, 16, thank you. The applicant may also construct a new porch covering, which is an extension of the existing ground floor roof, with white Endurostone Tuscan columns, 8 inches in diameter and 9 feet tall, covering the proposed new entrance. Any changes or additions to the plans and work specifically described and outlined in the submitted application will be subject to further review by our commission prior to the work being carried out. Our commission's approval does not obviate the need for a building permit from the City of Kingston's Building Safety Division or any other required approvals from relevant coordinating agencies. Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that on this 5th day of December 2024, our commission grant a certificate of appropriateness to the above referenced applicant for the work as described herein and in his application to the commission, such notice to be subject to the conditions contained in the foregoing motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Eric. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Andrea?
Aye.
Nettie?
Aye.
Robert? Eric?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
I also vote yes. Gracias, señor.
I have a little question. We do have trouble with, our mail or spells out we order, because currently they said it was before, when we moved there, it was 13 Wilbur, and now we added the south. So sometimes we add the south and our packages still get delivered to 13 North Wilbur Avenue.
Oh,
So that's something that we want to fix, but I don't know where we can go and fix
City
that.
engineer.
City engineer, okay,
yeah.
okay, thank you so much.
Good to have a quick answer.
They do the street address.
That's important. All right.
That's it, right?
That's
Thank
our-
you, yeah, have a good night.
Yeah,
It's a couple times, but yeah, it's very good. I mean, it is.
it's I mean, you want to know that he's going to be doing the work. He needs to have a clue as to what we're actually talking about. I mean, I certainly cannot translate the resolution
I
itself.
was gonna say, you're gonna have to brush up on your building construction in Spanish.
Exciting. Cornice, what, cornice, with a Z on the end, probably, who knows? All right. All right, moving on to lead agency status for common council. I wish they would stop calling it the pipeline demolitions. It's not, we proved to ourselves that this isn't the pipeline. This is the canopy. They had another name for it, the uptown.
Yeah.
The uptown canopy. I would love to pass that along to the planning board and to common council, that maybe calling it what it is will make it less politically. There are folks in town who have a real warm feeling about John
Sure.
Pike. And maybe that will be a way for them to stress that what we're looking at is just not the original Pike plan by far.
So, identify the structure more accurately as, town canopy.
Yeah,
That's why
as,
it's common.
right, as was, determined by the Pike Plan Commission itself before they disbanded.
In 2011.
Sounds right. Thank you. You were there. Essentially what's before us is the way that the planning board was the lead agency on the Kingstonian, Common Council wants to be the lead agency on this decision.
I say what?
Yes, we do not want to be lead agency here, because our decision doesn't spend $1, tear down a brick, do anything. So I think they are the more logical part of city government to be lead agency here. So we have to complete an attached form and return to the office within 30 days.
So just basically what you want to do is, the decision would be that the HLPC consents that the Common Council act as lead agency in the coordinated environmental review under 6 NYCRR Part 617 for the secret determination of significance of the proposed demolition of the pipe plan canopy in the City of Kingston Historic Stockade District. The HLPC chairman is authorized to sign the response form provided indicating such position. It will identify the structure more accurately. Identify the structure more accurately, will recommend that they identify the structure more accurately as the uptown canopy versus pipe plan as was determined by the Pipe Plan Commission prior to their disbandment.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so I need a motion for that.
Thank you. Robert, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Nettie. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Andrea.
Aye.
Nettie.
Aye.
Robert.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Kevin.
Aye.
I also vote yes. We are unanimous. If it's here, I'll sign it.
Yep. Just sign it.
All right. The last order of business on the agenda is Pankaki, where we think,
There is an added item.
Huh?
It's not in your staff notes. It came today. It is another request for the Common Council to act as lead agency under the seeker review for the acquisition or the eminent domain process of the properties in the Rondout area for the redevelopment of those for housing and as a walkable neighborhood under the new form-based code. So it's 200 housing units, affordable workforce, mostly affordable, and it will have some combination of other commercial uses within it as well. They are seeking lead agency status on this. HLPC, in this case, is not an involved agency. You're an interested agency. You're identified as interested because of the nearby Rondout Historic District. This is not a historic district property, but you've been included in the circulation process. I would, recommend once the plans become public for detail, that you certainly might want to take a look at them and make comment on them. I would, as the Landmarks Preservation Commission, there is a very, unique historic district right there in close proximity. So whatever is developed, while it's not adjacent to or within the district, it certainly will have an impact on the district, and you should weigh in if you have any comment. So.
right, similarly, many years ago, when the new brick buildings on Lower Broadway were proposed, they came to the commission at that point, and we asked them to make it less uniform and break things up a little at that time. So there is a history of us being involved in the lands that were taken under, 1970s urban renewal. And this is the last big chunk of those sorts of lands. So, as Sue was saying, we are ceding lead agency status to Common Council.
Right, so they did not provide a form in this in this particular request, so it's just a decision document, basically, because you were asked, you would say the HLPC consents that the Common Council act as lead agency in the coordinated environmental review under 6 NYCRR Part 617 for the secret determination of significance of the type 1 action. This is a type, it will be type 1, proposed eminent domain of 24 parcels and affordable housing project at 2230 Garrigan Drive in Kingston, heritage area and local waterfront revitalization plan area, or boundary, I should say, boundary. And that the HLPC chairman is authorized to return a written statement to the Office of Housing Initiatives outlining this position.
All right, I would so move. Do I hear a second?
Second, Nettie.
Thank you, Nettie. Any further discussion on this? Then I will call the roll. Andrea?
Aye.
Nettie?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
I also vote yes.
Okay.
Let them be the lead.
Yeah.
We do not envy them this position.
I have a question of clarification, but maybe you might have an answer. Are they, is the owner negotiating with the city on this?
I don't know the full details, but basically the city will be taking ownership of the property, and I know there have been eminent domain proceedings initiated. Whether or not they will be concluded with eminent domain, or whether there will be some sort of negotiation, I'm not,
Yeah, you know,
I don't have any further information.
the
but-
reason I asked the question is I had a case that went on for 8 years with the MTA.
Yeah.
In New York City, and, yeah.
I,
There
the
were
way
two
these kind of
phases.
cases go, there's
Two phases.
a good chance that something would be negotiated.
One was the secret phase, where you, right, which, you're right, we're doing that now. The second was the valuation phase.
Right.
Kevin knows.
Yeah. And
That will
And
be-
so does that, you know, there are constitutional requirements on,
Takings of property.
yes, and they have been tweaked recently to make it trickier for most municipalities. I'm trying to remember the Connecticut case that we all thought was going to mean swallowing of entire cities, but
Oh, New London, New London case.
yeah, that's the one.
And now,
Now, one last thing, are there gonna be new streets and stuff in the design?
I'm not sure if you call it like a street, but there's definitely like big parking areas and a big like kind of major way right through the
there's a
center.
street through it now.
Yeah,
Actually,
Yeah.
it was laid out as a full development at
Oh.
one point, yeah. It just never
Never.
got built out. There was a subdivision, which is why there's 42 parcels, because there are many small, like, parcels that would have been townhouses in the original plan. So there is a street that goes through the project site. It's Gallo Drive.
Oh.
So the old Hasbrook Avenue, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure, no, I
Yeah,
don't think,
or
I
Ann
think
Street
Hasbrook
was
came
cut
down and
across.
went on the other side
Oh.
of where 9W was, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember some of the old street names. I know Ann Street was my personal favorite because it was so short.
Yeah.
Emerald Chambers.
Oh,
That was one of them.
yeah, okay. There are ghosts of Rhonda still in people's memories of that side of the street. And I would love, I mean, this is way down the pike. I'd love to see if any of them get mentioned. All right, on to Pataki. So, the written report indicates we don't have 10 local landowners who are entirely on board here.
Right, so, February, we had a neighborhood meeting. I believe Nettie and Andrea were present. We met at Coffee Congregational Church. And we presented to a fairly small group of, local property owners. At the time, I think we only secured, maybe 5 or so signatures. And a few more had trickled in. There was some pushback at the time from, a couple of concerned groups. And then Sue and I had met with 2 churches, Riverview Baptist and Riverview Missionary Church and New Central Baptist Church to go over, what historic districting means, what are, any potential limitations or changes, as well as, the benefits through grants and other tax incentive programs. And so we've, reached out to them a number of times. At this point, we haven't heard back from them. But we have a number of other residents in the Kentucky area that are, looking forward to this project moving along. And so I had 2 individuals from Kentucky Street reach out, wanting to participate in getting more signatures. But we also wanted to bring this, to the commission and see if any commissioners would be able to assist in securing signatures. Perhaps, probably the most effective way would be like a weekend, walk through different parts of the neighborhood. Weekdays during work hours aren't seeming to work. Most people are away. And then as noted below, the code stipulates that we must secure 10 signatures in order for the petition to go before the commission. This is quite a large district, so we're looking at about 243 parcels. There's approximately 213 owners, so some owners own multiple parcels. But we're looking to secure roughly, 50 to 60 signatures in order to bring it to the commission.
Yeah, we think it would make a more solid application, 10 signatures when you're talking over a couple hundred parcels. It's not indicative of.
Right,
you know,
public hearing could be
a
quite
desire to really have this, and so, you really want the community's buy-in, the neighborhood buy-in. So we would like to obviously go well above that 10 signature mark in this particular instance.
But it doesn't sound like people are that interested. If you have less than 10 now, there's 213 parcels.
Yeah, there were some people and Nettie and Andrea were at the meeting too. They were, the churches were upset because they weren't included within the boundary. And that was something that had happened at the state level when they returned their review of the work that AHRS had done in the intensive level survey. And they were looking at it more for state and national district nomination. So we spent a good amount of time. Ethan did put in a lot of effort trying, to work with them. We met with them a couple of times after that public meeting. We met just with the church people. We brought other resources to them to show them, and tried to, express to them the benefit. They were non-committal. They wanted to go back to the board of congregations. And then the communication just kind of dissolved. Ethan's been trying to reach back out to them, a couple of times, through phone calls, emails, he's tried to go down there. And they finally, we had to say, and other people are calling us, we want this, they want it. I think the majority of the property owners down there want it, but they felt that they wanted to support the churches. And so we said, we could include the churches in the local district, and that's what we want to do first. We want to do a local district designation first. And then from there, we would, like we're doing with Wilbur, move it to we'd have to do more study and maybe move it from that point to a state and national level. And at that point, maybe the churches will, maybe they won't be, with further investigative work. So, with all these other people saying, we want this district, we want something to happen, we kind of have to move this forward. If the churches want to participate, absolutely, we want them to. But we can't continue to just wait for a couple properties and not, for the benefit of the greater community.
What do we think is holding them back? What do you think broke this down? Because they know they can get in at this level because you say we can. And now they're just not responding. So what do we think happened here?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, there certainly was, it was, when the state reviewed it, they have a whole series of guidelines when it comes to determining, the key word they use is integrity of not just a building, but also an area. And what they were looking at was how intact is the area in relation to the period of significance, which was identified by AHRS. And so they went back and looked at historic maps, and they noticed that a number of the structures that were present on these two blocks were lost in the past. Many of them were lost because of, age, also because of exposure to the elements. So those plots are basically empty now.
Was there flooding?
There was flooding in a number of these areas, which took a toll on these buildings. And so that was the official answer from the state. And I think that, that was a great disappointment to them.
But does it help their case for them? And do they know that if they are included with the local, then the next step is to try to get state? That they can't really get one without the other?
Well, one of the
No, you can't. It gives you strength, though, to be designated locally if you're going to go for state, yes? Gives you some resume.
They might be included within a state or a national district boundary, but they'd be considered contributing, but not as at a national level recognized or
But you got to look somewhere.
Because there's different criteria
Yes.
when you go from local to state and national.
Yes.
There was another component that was identified, which is the availability of grant funds to churches, which is something that when we met with them, we talked about. So for example, there's a National Trust Sacred Sites grant. And it's a very generous grant, especially associated towards African American churches. There is no specific requirement that those churches need to be listed on the national register or on a local register, but certainly if they were to become locally designated or listed on the national register, I would imagine that would be, making them much more competitive in the application process. And that was something that was shared and I think fairly well received.
I don't know anything about the governance of these two religious organizations. Some are really diffuse, some are very centralized. I've incorporated a couple of churches in my years in practice, and one had to be approved by a special office in Colorado, for example, and another was, well, okay, we just declared ourselves to be members of this grouping. Does anyone have a feel for whether these folks are waiting for a higher, more central?
I didn't get that impression.
Okay.
No, it's basically local. Yeah.
Okay, so it's the local board that gets to make the decision on this. Wow. Could you tell them with the history of what happened at Old Dutch? That amazing program of re-plumbing the wall and the wild bracing that goes back and forth in the attic. And that was an extensive grant that they got. Do you think something like that would be a selling point? Or the fact
Well, the
that,
grant that Ethan was describing, they could apply for it now, actually, and there was no match
There was
even.
no
It was like a gift, almost, and,
they did it
that's why
already.
we wanted to share it with them. I don't even think there was like a due date, it was almost like a rolling kind of grant, and so they could, and we offered to help them with it, so we were throwing them bones,
Were you able to dispel their concerns about gentrification?
That was a concern that, I'm not convinced, I don't believe they really were able to let go of.
So they're conflicted.
Yeah,
On one hand, they want to be included, on the other hand, they have reservations.
yeah, it was that my history is excluded. And then I don't want to be included because this is going to limit me and push me out.
Can we educate them differently? I mean, are they right? Is that gonna happen eventually, or can we give them any examples where that has not happened?
I'm sure there could be additional research that would find examples where that hasn't happened.
well, it seems like the Rondo, at least the residential portion, that there's much less commercial activity in property. With that, I mean, I don't think it's being a historic district changed the community makeup. I don't know. I'm trying to remember, who's the church?
I don't know that it would be a sole driving factor.
I'm trying to remember the name of the church on Word Street that came before us over that blinky billboard that they put out front.
Oh, I know, it's at the top of Spring Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the one.
Yeah. No, Trinity Lutheran is a different issue. It's a much smaller church.
St. Mark's.
That could be it. That could be it. It's partway down Word Street. If you're going downhill, it's on the left-hand
Yep.
side.
Yes, that's St. Mark's, I'm pretty sure.
I'm trying to remember if that's also a version of Baptist. As a Jew, I get really confused when I wander into Protestant reformations. I don't know. I once walked past the Fifth Baptist Church and thought, oh my God, why is there a fifth? Where happened to all the others? So I don't really get it. But what I'm searching for is someone that would be a peer congregation and what they've seen happen from within a historic district.
Interesting.
That might be more powerful a voice than you, me, or Ethan, or any accountant kind of approach.
That's an idea.
Are there churches in the heritage area? I mean, it's not a historic district, but similar.
There's another one down on, gosh. It's just a block off of a Beale. And maybe not West Union. There's a church there. There's many churches.
Well, there are several that are closed down too.
No, but this, I think this is still active there.
Okay. Maybe that would be an approach that would resonate differently and might be able to directly address a history here in town, a church that does not get, switched over or left without parishioners because of a change in the surrounding neighborhood. If that's a concern, I'm not entirely sure that addresses it, but it would just be a different voice.
Mm-hmm.
And
No, it's a good suggestion.
okay.
I have a question actually in relation to what what kind of time frame is there on this? It seems, I feel like there's a ticking clock that I don't know about, maybe some of us don't know about on it, that, or this designation.
There isn't. I
Okay.
mean, obviously, the intensive level survey work was the first step
Yeah,
in, at determining if it was something that would be potentially possible. And, there's no time frame on it. It's just, we've been trying to get them,
Yeah.
to come and join. And other people are really saying, why isn't this moving forward? Why is, Wilbur's, gone forward, gotten local designation. We got a grant now that, we're gonna get a consultant to work on that, to bring them. So Wilbur's really moving, forward, and everybody's saying, well, why not Pankaki? And, it's very difficult,
you said before that that there seemed like there's a lot of interest, yet we've only been able to get 5 signatures for this.
Yeah, and again, I haven't been out there. I don't know why, but I know that they say that the people want it in the neighborhood. So that's why we do have a couple residents of the neighborhood that are willing to go around and talk to people. And so we just wanted to ask if any commission members would also, and I think if we go around and you're knowledgeable about it and you speak to the property owners, we could get other people to sign.
Okay.
And Pankaki is largely owner occupied. It's not like there are tons of rentals.
Yeah. I would say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can the local alderman be supportive here?
He is. He does say he is supportive. That's, it's Shabbat.
Okay, so if Steve would recommend folks for us to talk to, that he would know who's related to whom and who's married into which family, and we're talking about Pankaki. That's an area of stability that is rarely replicated elsewhere. And so knowing who's connected to whom how can be an important thing that I certainly don't have. You may not either, but Steve, I bet, does.
Does he also have any kind of regular board meetings, community meetings? It might be a good place for us to be and for people to speak in support.
Yeah, I don't know if he does like a ward meeting. Some of them do them regularly, but I don't know if Steve does that. But wouldn't hurt to ask him.
Yeah, because it sounds like we need voices who aren't us in the room, helping to explain and describe the benefits.
You live down there.
I've heard people that will not go public, but they don't want to become an applicant in front of this board.
That's an old objection I remember hearing for decades.
Okay.
Just the hassle of coming to HLPC. I mean, for decades, we were the last stop. They would get approved here, approved there, approved here, and then it would be like, oh, you need to go talk to HLPC, and we're talking to them about, tiny details that they thought they had already settled with a different board. And this created a lot of animosity and a nickname of the Hysterical Preservation Commission.
We're not the only municipality that's been called that, so, but yeah, that can be it.
Yeah, I think that holdover may last longer in Pankaki because it's so stable.
Sure, sometimes people think I'm actually Moses Jonas. There you go.
There's a twist.
Or they start talking about the old families that work for the brickyard as if, I was like Mr. Hutton's manager or something. I mean, I knew George really well, but it was, he was out of business for like 25 years before I moved to Kingston.
Yeah, he dropped off. I still remember coming out on my front porch and he had dropped off about 5 of the brass plaques.
Yeah.
And just a little note in a book going, good luck. Which was very sweet on one level, but on another, a little ominous.
Yeah, the other thing that had come up earlier on, and I'm not sure how much discussion wasn't enabled at this, but was that insurance issue, or the replacement cost versus depreciated value.
Okay.
That was another issue that came up. I think I remember one of the meetings, right?
Yeah.
Right.
One of the community.
And do we have a good answer for that? Well, making sure that your insurance needn't, what we require can be covered by insurance, or is that a real problem? I haven't had a fire, I don't really know.
I think it was, we found something in relation to one insurance carrier who I think took an issue with something,
It
but
varies from insurance to insurance.
Yeah.
From one insurance provider to another. If the city code mandates that you have to rebuild with, the exact same type of materials, so there's an 18th century timber that's lost, you have to replace that timber. Then the insurance policy, the carrier is not pleased with that.
Okay.
Our code is a little bit different, that we're not necessarily asking you to rebuild the exact structure because we recognize that it's lost.
Right, we're not asking you to plant the next American chestnut, wait it 100 years, chop it down, and replace that team.
Right.
Do you know any locally landmark properties there were in the proposed district?
Yes. Kentucky Congregational Church is one, and I believe there might be a couple of. What?
Rabbit Hose, I guess, on the street.
That, yes, but that's in the Rondout district. It's not in the Kentucky.
I
Yeah.
think in East Union, that wouldn't be.
Kevin's house.
Yeah.
I'm not in the district,
You're not, yeah.
neither is Court Ranch.
So you can't find support there.
Yeah, Maria, the consultant, excluded us, she kept us outside the district, because we're.
The proposed local district does incorporate.
Yeah, the
The
local
local
district
district
included.
would, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, let Ethan know. Obviously, we'll
Yeah,
wait
I
till
mean,
the
I don't-
letters a little bit more.
meeting, but okay, so there are several levels
Like,
of resistance,
yeah.
each of
I
which
didn't
is
think
going to
about that.
require a very
Review.
different kind of approach. Are there contractors based in the district who have appeared in front of us? Who could dispel some of the fear? That coming from a neighbor?
Resident that's a.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we stopped biting and scratching and that sort of thing years ago.
Tell me if this scenario is true. If you have, there's no endorsement for anything, you have a little old house, somebody buys it, they want to tear it down and put 10 units with no parking. They can do that now. Can they do that with the designation without approval from, say, us? Or, I mean, in terms of.
Kind of exterior changes, if it becomes part of a historic district that's subject to coming here, any kind of exterior changes to structure will need a certificate of appropriate.
But
It's visible from the public right of way.
But
So
as of now.
As
they
of
could
right
do
now, they
that.
can do.
So maybe, I mean,
Right.
the boogeyman is gentrification. Look out, it's coming, but this structure could help prevent that, and if they do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah.
a pro side too, where it kind of protects,
Yeah.
But
they don't understand
that, it's.
But if you give them a graphic, like, look, here's a 200 unit, right here in the middle, they're gonna tear out an entire block, what do you think?
That's a good angle.
We can't stop them, but we could if we have
Yeah.
oversight. If that's what they're afraid of, losing their neighborhood.
oh wait, they're in the heritage area though,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but the heritage is just a recommendation back to, if it's an external, it's only a recommendation. And it's just desk review, it's not any formal review.
Yeah.
And, they can take it or
Think if that, I mean, that might help them see some benefit.
I think that might make a strong case, actually.
If they really are worried about losing their neighborhood, or if that's just another
So
fear.
far, I don't
Yeah.
think that has happened where
Not yet.
anybody has done tear downs.
Not yet.
No, not yet. We've seen it in other places, but I haven't seen it in Fun.
I do remember from early on at one of the
Yeah.
meetings, there was a lot of displeasure at a fairly new construction down there. I'm drawing a blank on the exact street, but it resembled one of the boat buildings. And I think it's a residential unit, but people were displeased that it may be out of proportion with things in the neighborhood. And so I think those who were talking like that were kind of like getting towards the argument that you two are talking about. Though we may not want to tie that argument to someone's house. But it's, it's a concept that's very nice.
Sure.
How else can we be helpful, do you think?
I mean, just trying to get out there and, talk up the positive aspects of, what it is. I mean, it's very helpful knowing what some of the negative is. Yeah, I understand people don't want to come out and say that publicly, but, at least having that in the back of our heads, you can, when you're talking to somebody, you might be able to say, or, there are people down there that were applicants in front of the HAC. It's very similar type of review when there was the Heritage Commission was active. And, there's one, that's redoing their house on, what's the street?
Gil?
Yes.
Disaster management?
Yeah. But I mean, there are people that are investing down there, and the investments that are being made, are positive. And they're not tearing, features off of structures, but they're trying to, restore them and improve them and upgrade. So, and I think even with the desk reviews, when Ethan's doing desk reviews and I'm looking at them too, we're trying to encourage the people, even though we don't have a formal authority, but we're trying to encourage them to, go in that direction and, really think about, design, and, maybe restoring versus just ripping something off or using light materials and not trying to, build something that doesn't look like it belongs in
I
it.
think that's great because of my interpretation of that area is it's a lot of young people and this is probably their first home. They don't know,
Yeah.
So if you guide them, just.
I mean, that
very
neighborhood
informally.
did see a huge turnover, between 911, 9/11 and the, COVID.
Mhm.
There were a lot of sales in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I think, that was one of the driving factors of us going and getting the intensive level survey done, was because we saw so much activity down there.
Yes.
And, it was a little concerning that, we saw the the architectural resource down there and assets being, compromised. And we had nothing, no say.
This area had also been identified, going back even to the 80s, as historically significant and worthy of attention. I think it was the 1988 report with all the happening and first hinted at other places like that.
I'm remembering an immigrant's path. What path is that?
That was North Street, basically.
Okay.
So now you've got, the Empire State Trail
Okay,
is,
is where that
Yeah.
was. Okay.
Okay.
All right, I think you pumped us.
okay, got some good ideas. If you come up with any other suggestions, let us know. But if you do want to spend a couple hours on a weekend, you know, obviously we'll choose a warmer,
Not-
warmer weekend.
We're not going caroling for this?
Hey, come up with a carol. That's right up your alley.
Right, we wish you historic preservation. Yeah, that'll work. I think we've hit the bottom of the barrel. I will entertain a motion, we adjourn. Andrea has moved for, do we have a second from Eric? Hearing no discussion, I will call the roll. Andrea,
Aye.
Nettie,
Aye.
Robert, Eric, Kevin. I also vote we stand adjourned. Thank you, thank you.
Can you shut it down? Yeah. Can you shut it down as co-host, because I can't.